Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
This season, all your favorites have one home for the holidays. Yours with Disney Plus.
Merry Christmas!
Moana, Woody, Buzz, Captain Marvel, Darth Vader, and Homer will all be there, so make room. Make Disney Plus your home for the holidays. Streaming Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Nat Geo, and 30 seasons of The Simpsons. That's something to celebrate.
Merry Christmas to you!
All these and more now streaming. Go to DisneyPlus.com to sign up now.
This is Michael Russo from the Russo-Souhan Show, minus Souhan. Just kind of exciting today because we are joined by the better half of Anthony LaPanta, Margot LaPanta, and Anthony LaPanta. And Margot's already, she just quickly brought up how excited she is that Anthony and I get to go to Vegas next week.
Yeah, I'm really happy for the two of you. I think it's great when you look outside and
AJ and Vinny.
I think it's great for all of you.
Is Stev coming, your brother?
I don't think so.
But he's thinking about it, so it might be an option for him.
And what are you going to do during that time?
Boy, I'm not sure. Stay in Ramsey County. Maybe go out to Starbucks.
Could get crazy, go to Burnsville or something.
Take the puppies out.
Yeah. We invited Margot here so everybody can get a glimpse of some of the things that she likes to say to Anthony.
Actually, you know what I'll be doing? Is hanging out with my ungrateful 15-year-old, who happens to be the only sophomore in high school who isn't going somewhere for spring break.
And she's very upset
and it's all
about
my
this?
fault. It's not his fault. It's my fault.
Why isn't it Anthony's fault?
Look, he's perfect.
At least Ariana knows.
Yeah, she loves you.
This is the Russo-Souhan Show. We're produced here by Brandon. Brandon never gets enough credit, but Brandon is the one that makes this show run, and we're brought to you by TwillMN.com. Twill in the Galleria. FixologyRepair.com. John Hedges runs that place. My State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland, and Todd Moritz of Sandvold Financial Group. And Anthony, bad news for the Wild today to start off. And by the way, Margot will be definitely the star of the show at some point. But Anthony, bad news for the Wild today. Unbelievable. 2 games after being called up. Luke Cunnin out for the season with a torn ACL, a harmless-looking play in the corner where I don't know if he caught a rut or whatever when DeKaiser checked him, but it was a nothing clean check and from my long eyes from the opposite corner of where I sit, and now we're not going to see him until at least till training camp.
Yeah, and I think what makes it even more painful is that was Minnesota's big move at the trade deadline, was to not really make a trade to bring in an asset, but rather to clear space to make room for Cunnin to join the roster. And now the addition of youth and energy and some speed is gone quickly, and it was too bad because I really didn't think we got an accurate look at what kind of player Luke Cunnin has become this season down in Iowa in his first 2 games up here. I thought he was better in the first couple periods against Detroit than he had been in Colorado, but it's too bad to see it happen and to see it end this fast. And now that's a big question for the Wild because what they wanted to create was an opportunity to add a little youth to this lineup, a little speed to the lineup, and now they'll have to try to find that somewhere else.
Yeah, and right now, at least for the game against the Carolina Hurricanes, Foligno will get into the lineup. But back-to-back games on the road, Vancouver and Edmonton, I've got to think they're going to call up an extra forward just in case, and frankly, to get that youth in there. And maybe it's Kyle Rao. He seems to make the most sense to me because he is young, he's got energy, he hits.
And he's looked good when he's been up here before.
So but he's not a top prospect, but I think that he made an impact the first time up, and frankly only got called down because it's sent back down because of the All-Star game at that point. So,
and if you start to look at the lineup right now and where he would fit,
makes sense.
He would fit fairly nicely on a line that might have Matt Cullen and Charlie Coyle as a third line with a little bit of speed on that second wing there. I think that might be the right fit, but we'll see because, there's obviously the questions about Jordan Greenway signing sometime soon as well. And, I don't know if he's NHL ready to jump right into a playoff race or not. I guess we'll find out. But I think short term for this weekend, I'd be shocked if they go on this road trip without bringing an extra forward.
How disappointed were you just by the kind of what happened over the weekend? I mean, obviously a big win yesterday against Detroit to get themselves a little pressure reduced, but they're a team that basically probably needs at least 8 wins, probably, or I would say 8 or 9 wins to make the playoffs. If you looked at Colorado and LA are on pace for, I think, 96 points, while they're at 81. So really 500 probably gets the Wild in down the stretch here, but 2 blown opportunities to at least go 500 on that road trip.
Yes and no. I mean, to call them blown opportunities, in some ways is accurate. I mean, you go into Arizona, that's a spot where you feel like you should get 2 points, except for the fact that they're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games now. This is a different Arizona team than the one that buried themselves in the standings. And Colorado at home, that's a tough place to win. I mean, they've won 13 out of 15, and one of the 2 defeats was against Nashville in overtime here just the other day. There's 13-1-1 in their last 15 games at home. They've beaten a lot of good teams in there over that. Now, granted, 7-1 was disappointing, no question, but this kind of stuff happens. I mean, I know that fans are looking and they're watching one team. And so when that one team loses, it's time to blow things up. It's time to panic. You lose one, you feel like you're never going to win another one. But it happens to everybody. And if you even just look at this weekend, the other front runners that got beat by teams at the bottom of the standings. I mean, Nashville rallied and had to score late to tie it and then win in overtime against Vancouver. You had Vegas losing at home against Ottawa. I mean, it happens. And so I didn't really necessarily want to overreact to those 2 games. Disappointing, yes, no question. And if their pursuit was to try to catch Winnipeg to get to second place in the division and get home ice there, that's a major hit to that anytime you leave points on the table. But the reality is that I think you're right, 8-8, maybe 9-7 here down the stretch gets them in the playoffs. Half your games are at home. I mean, you don't have to win a ton of road games in order to secure a playoff. I think
the blown
spot.
opportunity was more the Arizona game. Just to, when they tied that game up, 24-8 shot advantage at that point. That's just where I mean by that is that just not. Yeah. I watched just coincidentally, it was just on NHL Network the Winnick Post, that game that Nino set up. I mean, you couldn't do that 100 times. If you did that 100 times, he would have put that in 99.
How many chances did Minnesota have when it was 1-zip to make it 3-zip? And they couldn't do it. So that's one where you'd look at it and say, front end of a back-to-back, let's make sure we win in Arizona, because the back end of back-to-backs against a rested Colorado team in their building where that top line is so good. Yeah. I mean, did you look at some of the numbers that McKinnon has posted at home this season? Yeah. I mean, they played 30 home games, now 31. And in 11 of them, he's had 3 points or more.
Well, I think I'll be interested to see what he looks like here in a couple of weeks, because if you remember in the playoffs, he did. Remember in Colorado, he absolutely roasted the Wild during the playoffs.
We had a graphic on this during the broadcast the other day. In his career, including the postseason, regular season, and postseason, he has 5 points in 13 career games at Minnesota. And I believe going into that game, he had 18 in 14 games in Colorado. So now it's 23.
And that includes the playoffs?
Yep. So now it's 23 points in 15 games in Colorado and 5 in 13 here. Part of it is certainly just the norm of playing on the road as opposed to at home, but part of it is matchups. And if you remember that playoff series, it was the Halla, Niederreiter, Pominville line that Minnesota was able to throw against him and shut him down throughout whenever it was at home. Then on the road, they stayed away from that matchup, and it was trouble. So, and matchups are certainly a part of it, but there's just a little magic going right now for that line when they're on home ice.
Is there any concern from you at all, though, that there have been 5 or 6 games at Pittsburgh, at Dallas, at Winnipeg, twice at Colorado, where the Wild are completely overwhelmed and can never seem to put it together because they're going to play Nashville or Winnipeg potentially in the playoffs.
But they're never going to be on the back end of back-to-backs when the other team is not, where a lot of those troublesome games that you just mentioned, Dallas was the back end of back-to-backs.
Dallas was the only one, though.
Denver, the second time, was the back end of back-to-backs. And when they caught Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, the Penguins were just rolling. When they caught... The first time they caught Colorado in Denver, they were just getting going in that 10-game win streak, and so there was some of it was when it was back end of back-to-back. Some of it was just wrong team, wrong time.
Some of it had Kyle Quincy in the lineup,
right? And that's all valid. But the reality is, if you look at the Wild, I mean, now this last road trip skewed it a little bit because they just got beat twice. Their win percentage on the road was close to 50-50. The points percentage is not because they've lost so many regulation games. Going into this last trip, they were 14-15-1 on the road. So the difference between the Wild and some of the other contenders is Minnesota had 14 wins in 30. So did most of the others. But the difference is they were like 14-10-6 or something like that. So they were gaining more points on the road than the Wild, which doesn't matter when you get to the playoffs because it doesn't matter if you lose in overtime or regulation. So on one hand, yes, you can't keep going on the road getting beat 7-1. But in the playoffs, it's a different animal because every time, no matter what, by definition, in your playoff series, the rest is matched for the two teams. The travel is exactly the same for both teams. And, they might get blown out. Imagine a series in Winnipeg, and you go up there and play the first two games. There's a very good chance you lose one of those first two games, and once the snowball gets rolling, it gets out of control. But you have to be able to just keep in perspective that it's one game, and it's no different if you lose 7-1 or if you win 3-2. It's 1-1. And
you sound like Doobie now.
Well,
that's Doobie said that the other day. 7-1, 1-0, same thing. And I was like, all right, in the standings, but a little different.
No question, it feels different. But that's the big challenge in the playoffs. It's always been that when you lose a game, you feel like you're never going to win again. When you win a game, you feel like, oh, now we got it rolling and we're invincible. And the reality is that's just not the way it is.
Yeah,
series go back and forth, and the ebbs and flows of momentum in series are huge. And the challenge is that you have to be able to put 7-1 in the rearview mirror. I mean, we're assuming there's going to be, let's say a 4-1 game where you get outplayed thoroughly, you get beat on their home ice. It's just one win. And now focus on trying to win game 2 and get home with a split. And I think Minnesota, with their playoff experience, has been able to do that as well as most teams. I mean, they went into Colorado when they were the underdog and won the series. They went into St. Louis when they were underdog and won the series. The Dallas one I dismiss a little because they're playing without Zach Parise at that time, who was as good a player as they had, as good a scorer as they had.
And Vanek.
And the one series that got away from him was last year against St. Louis, where that's a different story. But I'm not overly concerned if you're looking at it from, does this mean this team is flawed when it comes to a playoff run?
Right. Let's talk a little more about that after. But I did want to give a shout out to our first sponsor. We're absolutely nowhere without our sponsors here at the Russo-Souhan Show. So I want to definitely thank TwillMN.com. Twill in the Galleria, Scott Dayton's incredible clothing store. Please go to the Galleria and check out Scott Dayton's Twill.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill. Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
So, well, first of all, it is lovely to have Margot here because,
of course,
the three of us and your oldest son, AJ, and maybe your mom, Judy, will get to go to Italy this summer. DefineDestinations.com if you want to come with us. Actually, a couple people that have listened to the podcast recently have signed up. Now that it is 100% to go, because we are fully, but again, open spots if you want to come, but we have the minimum number that we need. How excited are you, Margot, to finally leave this continent?
I can't even believe it's going to happen. Yeah, super excited. We haven't ever taken a trip together.
And this is going to be your 50th birthday?
In the yeah, I won't quite be 50 yet. I'll still be in my 40s.
When do you officially turn 50?
Not until we get back later in
nice.
July.
You should actually, you know what you should do is, so I land here at like 10:30 at night. I'm on a different flight, I think, than you guys coming back from Italy. But then at 7 a.m. the next morning, I'm flying to Denver to go see Dave Simonette and Trampled by Turtles at Red Rocks. You guys should get on that flight.
Well, some of us have to get back to work when we get back. It's the middle of the baseball season.
That's true. All right, that's a good point. I forgot that we actually tried to plan this because of the All-Star weekend.
Right.
But if you do want to come check out this trip with Anthony, Margot, myself, and Barbara, my mom,
it'll be a great trip.
It is
really.
Gonna be amazing.
I mean, the places we're visiting are awesome. The vineyards we're going to hit are awesome. And if you like just hanging around, sipping on some wine, talking about hockey or cooking or whatever else comes to mind, it'll be great. We'll have a blast.
And that actually is my favorite, like the thing I'm looking forward to the most is those nights that like, you know, you go to a winery, buy a couple of bottles of wine and sitting out, but you know, at the villa that we're essentially going to own ourselves and just kind of shooting the breeze about the wild, listening to Margot make fun of you, which is still the best part of when Margot, like to me, that's the best part was watching your face when she just goes after you.
That sounds so cruel.
Well, yeah, but it's fun.
I'm just pointing out some things that maybe
that others would miss. You can't let that happen. So Margot went down and was part of a photo shoot with Marty Gellner at a Timberwolves game. And Peregrine, our stage manager, was the stage manager that night for the Wolves game. So he recorded Margot reprimanding me on his phone.
He didn't tell me why I was doing it, but I am a good follower. So
he has this video on his phone of Margot reprimanding me, telling me to knock it off and behave myself, whatever. And he plays it regularly in the press box now at Wild games. In fact, last game he brought a speaker just so I could hear it loudly enough.
Did it work?
Well, it just makes me chuckle because it's I feel like I'm at home.
And then you chuckle.
Right.
That is, but well, to me, like that was the funniest part when I was in the press box last time we were on the air together. Is all of a sudden I just hear Margot and like yelling at you. And I'm like, this is awesome. and I will say the joke, the funny part about this is Jim, your stage manager. He's got to deal with you on a everyday basis, kind of driving him crazy. You know, not paying attention when he says 10 seconds or, you know, having your laptop up when you're about to go on the air and not being able to find you sometimes during intermissions.
I bet there's a long list.
Yeah. I definitely think there's some
union
grievances.
I think it's the highlight of his career.
Yeah. So I've asked him many times, don't you think that this is a union grievance that you should be able to, you know, file here?
I think the only union grievance he has was the time I accidentally hit him with a chair. Accidentally during a post stand-up celebration. It was absolutely unintentional. I think I kicked a chair. I did something to a chair and it flew across the room and hit him in the shin.
Sorry?
Oh, I absolutely did. I felt badly.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
I did feel badly. I like Peregrine. He's a good guy.
Oh, he is a great guy. And the post celebration that Anthony refers to is after they go off the air every single time. So envision this when you're at home, when they throw it back to say Audra Martin or something. When that camera goes off, Anthony and Mike Greenlay, they go into literally a woo 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 celebration where they're fist pumping and body slamming each other, and there's been some incidents. Mike was once thrown through the wall.
We've had a couple where the celebration got a little out of hand, and one time we knocked over a partition in San Jose. It was a fake cubicle office partition between
Bob Kurtz.
Us and the radio guys, and I threw a shoulder into the big donkey, and he fell into this partition wall and knocked it onto Bob Kurtz. He didn't really like that very much, and we did put a Greenlay-sized dent into the drywall in the XL Energy Center press box.
Yeah, they were not happy.
They weren't happy with us about that either.
Who again? Who's essentially your boss there? That would
Well, they're not really my boss, but we have the truck has an engineer who's basically in charge of filling out paperwork at the end of every show that says we got on the air, we had this issue. Then he had to write down that. Well, they had it on video. It wasn't like it was a mystery. And he says there was a dent in the drywall because they have a relationship with the Minnesota Wild and the XL Energy Center. And when the Wild people would walk in the booth next time and look and say, well, why is there a Mike Greenlay shaped dent in our wall? And so then we just got an email saying, if we could maybe tone down the celebrations
Maggie, right?
a little bit. Maggie Kukar, right?
It's funny. I didn't even tell you this, but yesterday in the press room, Mike Greenlay was ordering his new IFB from Maggie, which was pretty funny.
That just happened on the last trip. Well, Mike has an accelerated path from happiness to anger, and it happens much more quickly than it does for most people. So something was happening with his earpiece that wasn't up to his standards, and this was when we were working the show in Denver the other night, and he had gotten from I'm not really hearing the truck. I'm not really hearing the truck. To this thing doesn't work. And in about 30 seconds. So he grabs his earpiece and throws it on the counter. Well, unbeknownst to him, it bounced like a racquetball off the counter and sailed out into the crowd at the Pepsi Center. And this was early. There weren't a lot of people out there yet. So we watch as this thing sails through the air, and it's like happening in slow motion as you watch it. Like, there it goes. It's way out there. And I'm kind of leaning over the counter watching as it lands in the middle of the seats of the upper deck at the Pepsi Center. And I think right then he had gone from 0 to 60, and now he was quickly back towards 0 fast, because I think he realized, that wasn't great. And so our audio guy brings him a new earpiece and plugs in a temporary one so we can at least do the pregame hit that we were about to do. And then he's looking out there and he's trying to point to it. He sent one of our guys out there into the crowd, and he's like pointing to him which row it went over, and the guy is out looking for this. They're molded earpieces. I mean, I don't use a molded one. I just use the one that came out of the box. But even those are expensive. Yeah. And the molded ones are spendy. I guess I don't know. I'd guess a couple $100
I have the mold
probably.
in my house here.
Yeah, I think, doesn't it cost a couple $100, maybe 180 or something like that?
It's a company in Wisconsin.
Right. So I think he was worried that, I just lost my molded earpiece due to an anger management issue. And so the bottom line is he's directing these guys around to try to find it, and they couldn't find it, and he lost his earpiece.
Oh my God, that is funny, Margo.
Yeah, it was funny. I felt badly because, I mean, you've all been there where like you get a little more angry than you're supposed to, but it was funny how
the
fast
story that you guys told reminded me of in 1998. I'm in Calgary covering a Florida Panthers Calgary game, and this was back when the laptops you'd press this button and this little plastic dial-up modem clip would come out of your laptop. Do you remember this?
Yep.
And that's when you'd put in the actual dial-up to the phone, and that's how you sent your stories. Well, third period of the game, Kirk Muller scores on a breakaway to tie the game with 5 minutes left. In Calgary, I don't know if you've ever been on our side of the press box.
Yeah,
Calgary is
across the catwalk.
Yeah, so Calgary is the one press box in the entire league, other than what used to be Edmonton and actually Montreal. Sorry, where the broadcasters are actually on the other side as the writers on the other side of the rink. Like, so they're facing the bench, we're facing the penalty boxes, and in our press box, it's still to this day, 20 years later, there's like 3 TVs. So for us to see a replay, you had to walk over to essentially like the Calgary Herald area. So Begane from the Palm Beach Post stands up, he wraps his, and I'm plugged in because I got a file at the gun. It's 1 a.m. out east. He wraps his foot around the dial-up cord that's leading to the phone, and as he leaves, he literally snaps the plastic thing right out of my laptop, and I watch this thing like in slow motion, like the Junior Mint in Seinfeld, slow motion fly over the press box, and I am
the whole laptop,
not the laptop, just the plastic clip
okay.
just snapped.
Could have done some damage to somebody below.
So this plastic piece is gone. I have no way to send a story now. And I look at him
that really well.
Yeah, I was absolutely panicked.
You have no idea the stuff he deals with.
Anthony, don't piss me off. So anyway, this is the type of stuff that you can see in Italy, because Anthony and I are usually good for a couple blow-ups every now and then.
No.
All right, I'm good.
You're good for a couple blow-ups.
You should have seen me at the Yard House the other day, Margo. He was freaking bothering me.
He lost his mind and then screamed at Dan Myers. And
You probably provoked him.
Yes.
I think I provoked him by saying something like, "Come on, this is a no-brainer playoff team." Oh, come on!
No, that's not what I was saying. I couldn't believe that you guys think that they're just going to smoke the Winnipeg Jets.
I didn't say smoke the Winnipeg Jets.
We'll get to that in a second. Let me finish the freaking story. So anyway, so where was I, Brandon?
You lost some clip.
Yeah, so the clip flies over. So now I have to call the Sun Sentinel. First of all, Begain's like missing. I can't even scream at him because he went to go look at the replay. I call 1-800-77. I still remember the number. And I'm like, Don, my computer just broke, essentially. I got no way to send the story. He goes, all right, begin a dictation. So I had to get on the phone while the game was going on. And essentially, because also my story is now wrong. They now are tied, so I have to wing a dictation now on the phone back east. And then in overtime, the thing I'll never forget about that game is a streaker ran on the ice. And
And this
that
is
was
1989.
1998.
I'm
not that old.
So you had to basically do what a play-by-play guy does all the time.
Oh,
Just
give me a
wing
break.
it.
Like, Margot, you see, this is the problem. He thinks that his job is like harder than mine.
I wouldn't engage.
Yeah. Anyway, I agree. Where were we? Fixology repair? Yeah, fixology repair. If for some reason your modem flies over the press box or something happens to your phone, Fixology repair. 2 locations, Mall of America. Also one right outside the Wells Fargo building, which we actually did a live podcast at 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was awesome. John Hedges, who went on the Ireland and Scotland trip last summer with Defined Destinations and myself. It's his awesome store. Check out Fixology Repair.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
So back to what we were just talking about, Anthony, you being obnoxious. The Winnipeg Jets, absolutely on fire. 3 lines deep. Liney's on the 3rd line, and he's on fire again, which is coincidental because when the Wild play them, we usually don't see that Patrick Liney. We do see the on fire Blake Wheeler and Nikolai Ehlers and Mark Scheifele and Dustin Byfuglien, but usually the Wild shut down Liney pretty well. Would you at least concede this on my point? That the Wild do have had problems all year long with some of these really fast teams. We've seen it with Colorado. We've seen it with Winnipeg. And that it would probably behoove them to somehow figure out a way to play Vegas in the first round and cross over.
If you're asking which team would they be more likely to beat in a playoff series, I would say Vegas.
Yeah.
And no question. But I also don't think there is no chance that they will be looking at this saying, how do we finagle the schedule down the stretch to try to land against Vegas rather than against Winnipeg. And to go back to the conversation that we were having in Arizona, my point was that if you remember, it was the day after Christmas or the 27th when we were sitting at the dining room in the XL Energy Center. And I said the Wild are going to finish 3rd and play Winnipeg in the first round. And I've maintained that throughout. That's the point I was making in Arizona. And then what I will say is I don't think Winnipeg is this unbeatable monster that maybe you were making them out to be that night. I still think they have question marks in goal. I still think they have question marks on their defensive core. Yes, if you were just evaluating the series on whose top 9 forwards are more explosive, theirs are. There's no question. But they're also still the Winnipeg Jets. They're still undisciplined. They still take too many penalties, and they take a lot of penalties that I believe in a playoff series will be their undoing. Maybe not against Minnesota, but at some point during
Remember,
this
they swallow the whistles pretty well in the playoffs,
They
too.
do to a point, but if now all of a sudden, maybe they swallow the whistles, but if they swallow the whistles and this team takes 2 stupid ones, where maybe it should be 6, but they only get called for 2, that can be the difference in a playoff series. And don't underestimate Minnesota's playoff experience. And I know that they haven't ever gone anywhere. Well, they have. And this would be 6 years in a row with largely this group in the playoffs. And there's something to be said for that. This Winnipeg group hasn't been there together. They went one time and got swept in the first round a couple of years ago. And there's something to be said for having some experience when the momentum starts to go the wrong way in a playoff series. I believe for all those reasons, it would be a heck of a series. And imagine the energy in those two buildings if those two teams were to meet in the first round of the playoffs. It would be something fun.
I think my stress level that night is I don't work 82 games traveling commercial to go to Winnipeg in the playoffs. I do this to go to Nashville or Vegas, and it better freaking be
and
that
I think what actually set you off was when I said, well, we'll go to Nashville in the second round. Second round!
Listen to me. Okay. Let me just say one thing. Another part of my thing that night is that you guys, and both you and Dan were doing it, was this team's the second best team in the league since Christmas. And I will concede that they have the second
team.
They had at that point, up until the Phoenix and Arizona and Colorado losses, they had second
They're
most
still
points
the fourth
since Christmas.
best team since the first of the year.
I will say that they have the fourth best record. They're not the fourth best team.
But Mike,
here's my issue. In a
you're
playoff
like the guy
series,
that evaluates the team based on the
first of
ESPN
all, I am the
power
guy.
rankings.
I am the guy.
The beauty of sports is you don't need power rankings. They have standings.
Yeah.
They keep track
I
when you
get
win
it.
and when you lose.
I absolutely get it. But I'm telling you right now that what concerns me about this team is that they're 80% of the guys are having subpar years or average years. I mean, this team had an unbelievable February because of two guys.
80% of the guys.
I'm just saying, I'll go through the lines. I mean, do you want to go? I mean, they are led by Zucker, Granlund, and Stahl up front, and they're led by
all of whom are having the best seasons of their career.
And they have a quality. Their top four for the most part have been good all year.
Yep.
But
Their
pretty much
goaltending has
you
been
go
in the top third of the league.
and you go through every other forward, though, and it's been a disappointment, I would say, especially offensively. And I think that you match that up against Nashville or Winnipeg. If Nino doesn't become the guy that we expect him to be, or Coyle or Koivu or freaking Ennis or Foligno, I mean, this team is, I think, in a lot of trouble. I don't think... I mean, I will say to you, a coach the other day said to me when he was talking about the Wild, we got to check one line. Actually, what he told me is we got to check two players, and they're beatable. Now, you know, that is a concern in a playoff series when you're going up against three lines deep, and Stasny is your third line center.
But they're in the top third in the league in goals scored. Just about. I think they're 13th in the league right now in goal scoring. So that would fly in the face of the logic that says they can't score. I think they're 14th in the league in team defense. Now, I haven't looked at the numbers like up to the minute, but they were right in that. I think that was where they were going into the Colorado game. And, you know, so I'm not talking about a team that's in the top three, but they're in the top half of the league in those categories. Their home ice advantage is at the top of the charts. And bottom line is, you play a playoff series, somebody's going to have to come in here and, you know, and likely win a game in St. Paul, which has been tough for just about anybody to do. And the top four defensemen, as you mentioned, I think is one of their separating factors. And, you know, I think what people fall into a rut, and this is one of the points I made when we were at dinner in Phoenix, was when you watch the same team over and over again, all you see are flaws. Mm-hmm. When you watch opponents, all you see is what makes them dangerous. And I liken it to being a coach, because as a coach, I know. I sit and I watch game film for an upcoming high school game, and I'm watching these guys. Oh, look at how good this guy is, and look at how dominant. How are we ever going to stop this guy? And I watch my own guys, and all I'm saying is, and look, he's still screwing this up. He's screwing this up. The reality is, if you were watching the other guys, I'm sure you'd be seeing all the stuff they're screwing up. And if you were watching Winnipeg, you'd be seeing the flaws in the Jets if you watched them every single night all year. If you were watching Dallas, you'd be saying, okay, well, yeah, these guys are good, but holy cow, look at this guy, look at this guy, look at this. We can't kill penalties. We can't score on the power play. If you're watching St. Louis, you think you'd find flaws there? I mean, if you're watching Vegas or L.A. these are all the playoff teams in the West. Mm-hmm. So, yes, maybe Nashville and Winnipeg are better suited for a deep playoff run than Minnesota, but I defy you to find another team in the West that's built for a deeper playoff run than Minnesota.
Yeah. I'm only chuckling, Margo, because what he just said reminded me of this conversation that I definitely shouldn't read, but I had a text message conversation with a coach about a month ago, and I said, hey, you around? I'm in your hallway. And he goes to me, he goes, no, I'm prepping for the Mighty Wild. Good team, huh? Question mark. And then I go, eh. And then they won 7-2, by the way. Anyway, not the Wild. So now I just revealed the coach. Let's talk about my state. I got so many Twitter questions. I definitely want to get to those. A lot of people excited that Anthony and Margot are here, especially Margot. But I want to talk about my State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. He's just absolutely awesome. Saved me money. I was with the same insurance company for pretty much the entire time that I was in Minnesota. Same guy. I always like it. Insurance companies. It's kind of like you find your barber and you never leave. Same thing with insurance. But Tony was just did a tremendous job for me. And I definitely think that you should check out Tony Hoagland, State Farm Agency.
Right now, 1 in 3 drivers is cruising around in a state of skepticism about just how much value their car insurance company is delivering. If you are one of them, State Farm agent Tony Hoagland in Champlin can help you get to a better state, because he'll talk with you, listen to you, and help you put together a policy that has you written all over it, from cost to coverage, all backed by 24/7 customer support. Feeling less skeptical? Then call State Farm agent Tony Hoagland in Champlin and officially get to a better state with State Farm. And you can reach Tony at 763-421-4900.
So, Anthony, Twitter questions. Michael, I asked this on the mailbag, but you forgot to do the mailbag, so here it is again. I've already let this guy know that he just didn't read closely enough. Stauber. But anyway, why are hockey writers taking and this is a good question for you, Anthony, because I know that it's your livelihood. It's Margot's livelihood. People are just taking for granted that the 2021 CB negotiations will result in a lockout. And could the 2022 Olympics be enough of a carrot to prevent a lockout? And I do agree. I think that I think it's because there have been 3 lockouts in the Gary Bettman administration that we just take for granted. Well, CBA is up in a couple of years. There's going to be another one. I would agree that this time I think it's less than 50-50. I think if that we could finally convey to players what the definition of escrow is, they might relent a little bit and understand that this is just
they don't lose any money.
Yeah, like they don't get this.
Right. They don't. Yeah. They just lose it temporarily.
Right. And then they get some back.
And they get it back.
But what they don't understand is that this is not the owners taking more money from them. There's a certain percentage to make sure that the league revenues are 50-50 as negotiated in the CBA, and what they don't like is that they lose
exactly what they're supposed to get.
Exactly.
There's just some of it that's held to make sure that they get the accurate amount.
Right.
I hope there's not. I have zero inside information. I haven't talked to anybody about it. I really grew tired of listening to some of the players talk about the fact that they thought they were wronged by not being able to play in the Olympics. I will say that. I don't think maybe the owners and the management's position hasn't been explained thoroughly enough, but why would you want to take a break in the middle of the peak of your season for 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks, whatever it has to be, to send your guys across halfway around the world to play? It's only a few guys that get to play. For the rest of the guys, it just disrupts the season right when you're getting momentum.
Yeah.
The trade-offs are that you have to condense the rest of the season to get there. You lose your primary television time during the middle of your season. Football's over. Baseball hasn't started yet. Your competition is minimized. You take all the risk of injury for your players going over there that potentially get hurt. And the Olympics wouldn't budge on anything. I mean, they wouldn't even budge to the point where they'd let the teams put their team's logo on the guy's helmet.
Yeah.
So if
they won't let the NHL, it's their players, put highlights on their website.
Correct.
I mean, and you see it even now. Like there was I could not, when I wrote my story on Kaprasov, couldn't put highlights,
right?
Because they're nowhere to be found.
We can't use them on our broadcast. Yep. We can use still photos only. So if that's how inflexible all the other pieces are, then I don't think it's fair to ask for all the
only thing. I completely
100%
agree with everything you said. The only thing is, I think that we're going to see, from what the league's standpoint is, a little bit of a contradiction and hypocrisy in 4 years when the league actually is willing to budge and let them go to China. I think the league really does. Like, I was convinced going into Korea that there was no way they were going to be there. I was pretty consistent about that for 3 years. I think they're going to be in China. I do think that part of this is now they have a little bit of negotiating tactic to put this into the next CBA, that they're going to go to get what they want to ensure there's no work stoppage here in a couple years. But and also China is a different thing. They have a relationship with the country. They go there already and play games. There's a moneymaker. They're trying to develop hockey there. So I definitely think that there's a chance, but I would agree that it's just become like a common thing. Like we all talk about like potential of a lockout in a couple years. Expansion draft 2020. Who are we protecting? Who will Seattle get? Probably
no comment.
Yeah, probably a forward and a top prospect to save. Yeah, you know what?
I'm excited to have Seattle come in the league. I think it's going to be great.
Well, here's a better question.
I assume we end up with Arizona in our division.
See,
probably.
I think not. I'm starting to hear that, and you're not even going to believe what I'm about to tell you, but I'm starting to hear that unless Arizona moves to Houston in a relocation, that Colorado will move to the Pacific and Edmonton and Calgary will move back to the Central. Or to the Central for the first time, but be in the Wilds division for the first time since Northwest.
Yeah, it would be unfortunate.
Yes,
I think it's better to have keep the Western Canadian teams in the Pacific Division where they
and the Wild have such a great rivalry
right.
with Colorado right now. You know, it's nasty. There's legit hate between the writers and their freaking fans. Oh, no, I didn't say that. Sorry. Troy Duffy asks, DD is a top goal. I assume he means Devin Dubnyk. Is a top goalie at mid-pay for his position. A lot of Wild fans bash him for his soft goals. However, he's a top goalie since we signed him. My only complaint about him is the way he plays the puck. Every time he goes for it, I cringe. What area of his game would you like improved? You see, I don't think he's like last night. This is a bad time for me to say what I'm going to say because he almost had an absolute disaster last night for the tying goal, but Spurgeon got back and saved it. And actually, I'm convinced that if that puck got through, Dubnyk got back. But I don't think he's nearly as bad playing the puck as everybody seems to say.
If you talk to other teams to get an idea of what they think of Devin Dubnyk, I've not had one of them ever tell me we want him handling the puck.
I covered Roberto Luongo. You want to know what a bad puck handler is? That's one to cover. Where he's got to get better are these long shots glove side where he's not set. I mean, he gives up
when he's set, and you can tell early in a game when he's locked in. And the point the Twitter fan makes is valid. The day he signed, he was the 20th highest paid goaltender in the NHL. And there's no question that he was in the top third of the league in terms of goaltenders at that moment. And it was a great deal for the Wild. He's been really, really good. Since he came to Minnesota, Braden Holtby's the only goalie in the league that has more wins. I mean, that he's
talking about somebody that's struggling lately.
Right. And he's consistent. And again, I'll go back to you find a team out there that at some point between then and now hasn't felt like their goaltender had lost it. And you see the flaws when you watch a guy every single night.
The other night, I went to dinner with Kenny Albert and Brian Boucher, and John Trichetti joined us for about an hour, and we got talking about goalies. And Boucher, former goalie, he had some really great times in his NHL career. I still remember the 2000 conference finals when he robbed Elias and all that stuff. And we were talking about goalies, and we came up with that. If you can, there are probably 6 or 7 elite guys in this league, and the rest you can win with on long stretches or lose with. You just hope they get hot at the right time. And I think that's actually accurate. I mean, if you look, right now, would you take?
I don't think you could find 6 or 7 that right now you would say are no-brainer guys that you would take in front of Devin Dubnyk.
Right,
no-brainers. Right. I mean, there's
Vasilevsky,
and he's 2 years into his career. Really, I mean, let's see. Dubnyk's done this a lot longer than Vasilevsky has. Right.
Yep.
Holtby, I would, but right now he's wavering. Tuukka Rask, right now he's injured and hasn't been great for the last couple of weeks. Crawford has been gone for half a season. I mean, find a guy who's been more reliable than Devin Dubnyk since he came to Minnesota.
I don't know. We don't need to start that debate again. As Brandon can attest, I essentially told off the fans last week for bashing on Dubnyk. So anyway, Sam Randall asks, it seems like there are playoff performer stories like Justin Williams, Dustin Penner, et cetera, every year. Who on our roster is best built for a playoff style game? So like kind of the, Fernando Pisani's and the Dave Lowry's. There's always that one
guy that would surprise you.
Yeah. Who would you, although
Charlie Coyle.
Yeah.
He's a guy that I continue to think
it would surprise me if he didn't fan on a shot in a playoff game at this point.
There are so many moments during games where you'll watch him carry a puck into the zone. Nobody can take it away from him. And then all of a sudden right before something great should happen or a goal occurs, then all of a sudden something goofy happens and he never finishes. So, But he'd be a guy who it wouldn't shock me to all of a sudden see him score 4 or 5 goals in a playoff series.
And he drew the big penalty against Detroit that actually turned that game around by lugging the puck in the offensive zone. Nino would be my guy if he's healthy. I think he's somebody that I think could get hot and playoff. It's a shame again that Dallas goal a couple years ago, and same thing with St. Louis 2 years in a row. Right. I think Nino scores. Yep. And for some reason, one was the ridiculous overturn goal, and the other one that a lot of people still think went in Game 6 against Dallas. Andrew Silgan asks, I probably should have monitored these before. Does Chuck Fletcher have any strange team rules? Lou Lamoriello has no facial hair rule. What is the strangest rule you've heard of? Not that he has at all, Chuck. In fact, Lou seems to be lightening up in his old age. He actually had a father-son trip this year for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is something he never did in New Jersey. And frankly, one of the classiest things that Chuck Fletcher has done in his 9 years here in Minnesota was when he found out that J.P. Parisi had essentially terminal cancer, and found out that he had never been on a father-son trip. He got to go on his own personal father-son trip because the Wild didn't have one that season. Yep. And he got to be in Arizona when Parisi scored his 300th goal. Which was great. And the other thing I think he did that was great was this year changing it to a mentor trip, because for a lot of those guys it was a brother or an uncle or somebody that was able to come along, and it was a cool trip for the Wild this year. Yeah, no doubt. This is a good one for you. Evan asks, do each of you have your favorite play-by-play color commentator from either another team station or NBC? Dare I ask for one you aren't a fan of? Favorite and color and... Well, I guess I'll go the local route instead, because I think that's more comparing apples to apples, I guess. And I watch a ton of the local broadcasts. I watch them all before we play a team, and I watch it just for entertainment and enjoyment. I like a lot of the Canadian guys. I've just always been a Pat Foley fan. Mm-hmm. And part of it's probably just from growing up with all those North Star Blackhawk games, and I've heard so many of the replays of his calls of great moments that I saw. I think he's really good, and I think his partner Eddie Olczyk's the best in the business. I like Joe Micheletti on the color for the Rangers. I think he is really insightful there. I like Brian Hayward, the color guy for the Anaheim Ducks. I think he's really good. Those are probably a couple that jump out to me, but I like the Edmonton guys. I think those guys do a good job too. Yeah, they do a really good job, especially, I listen, it's funny, more radio now because I always listen to XM as I drive home from games. Who Jack I like Michaels on the radio is the Washington Capitals. Oh, Walton. He's from here, I believe. Oh, John Walton. Really? Yeah, he's tremendous. I really like him. I have a lot that I don't like, but I won't say that. I used to be a gigantic Ralph Strangis fan when he was doing the Dallas Stars. Just going through. Chris Cuthbert nationally, I think, is phenomenal. He did the golden goal for the. He called Kevin Gorg's state championship game at Burnsville High School. Yes. Really? Yep. That's pretty cool. And then I'm trying to think play-by-play. I mean, Jeff Rimmer is one of my closest friends. I just think he's old school. I love him. He's the Columbus guy. I like his color guy. Yeah, Jody Shelley. It's funny. We were in. I'm doing a story on the Department of Player Safety next week, and Anthony and I went to and shadowed them while we were in New York. And Anthony asked them because there was one guy that said he was essentially the maven, the expert on all the announcers, and he loved Shelley. There was one guy that I still wish I would have asked that guy to do his impersonation, because they said he does impersonations of every broadcaster. Yeah. And said he was like spot on with them. This guy, I mean, these guys sit and they watch games in front of the computer. They each get assigned one game. Yeah. And they sit there, and he was the one who would put his headsets on so he could listen to the broadcast. And they said this guy is. And I said, well, I won't put him on the spot for play-by-play guys, but I asked him about his color guy. I wish I would have asked him to do his impersonation, so it would have been great. That is funny. Next time. Yeah. I'm a Kenny Albert and Dave Maloney fan as well. There's one that's just on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of who I was thinking of. I like the San Jose guys. I like John Ollers, which is Anaheim. There's like one guy that's obvious, like one of my favorites, and I can't think of who it is, but... one last sponsor that's been absolutely awesome to the show is Todd Moritz of Sandvold Financial. He's new to the Russo-Souhan Show, which is really a humbling thing that he has jumped on board here. And here you can hear from Sandvold Financial.
Plan for tomorrow today. It sounds easy, but for many people it's not. The good news is, planning for your financial future isn't something you have to do all by yourself. Visit sandvoldfinancialgroup.com to request more information and ask for the tax-efficient insight of Todd Moritz, CPA.
Registered representative of and independent of Questar Capital Corporation. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Questar Asset Management.
Some more things. I still can't think of the play-by-play guy, though. It's pissing me off. Strangis was my favorite, and you know him really well, right?
I know
Same
well.
school.
We both went to Totino Grace.
Yep.
We're convinced it's the only high school in America that has produced 2 NHL play-by-play guys.
Yeah.
And Ralph is he's a good friend now. He was great to me. We were years apart in high school. I didn't know him in high school, but when I got out of college, I called and tracked him down to see if he could help point me in the right direction. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and had no idea how to get there. I wound up helping Ralph on the Minnesota North Stars highlight videos for a couple of years, and which led to some video production opportunities for me later in my career. And then when he moved to Dallas, we stayed in touch over the years. When I was hired by the Minnesota Wild, we've had some great conversations where we've sat and chatted about our career paths, and it's amazing how many people both of us crossed with at some point in our careers where, oh yeah, you worked with him at Public Access TV? I worked with him on AWA Wrestling or something. I mean, it was crazy how many people that throughout the Twin Cities market where we had crossed paths with them. And we just had dinner with Ralph. He came over to our house for dinner last year, late in the year, when he was getting a chance to do some LA Kings games late in the season, and had a tremendous dinner with him. He's a colorful guy, and I'm thrilled for him that he's getting some opportunities here to work some radio. He did the Olympics. He did the Olympics on the radio, and did the Stadium Series game out at the Naval Academy last weekend, and looking forward to crossing paths with him again.
Somebody on Twitter asks what Keith Ballard is up to and how he's doing. He seems to be doing great. He's basically helping Ben Hankinson at Octagon Hockey. He's also works for the Wild.
Big part of the Wild, right, with the kids programs to get kids equipment and get them on the ice. I just saw Keith at the Hendrickson Foundation deal and had some good laughs with him. He's a great guy. Terrible dart player, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, he was on the hockey team that I coached. Who did he collide with in that game?
I can't remember, but Matt Cook had the.
I think it was
great
like
line
Dan
on the
Henderson.
bench.
Cook screamed at him and goes, "Now you're going to be out another year." It's kind of funny. Does Anthony LaPanta like the nickname Tony Pants? Do you like that? Do you hear people call you that?
I don't really hear it very often. It's not. I mean, everybody calls me Panther. I don't. I mean, that's more the nickname that I guess I hear most often.
Brett Winthizer asked the origin of the story of the soundbite of Margot scolding you at the FSN. You've already told that story. Margot's not scolding you enough this trip. Can LaPanta go through what wines are his go-tos? Eric Vigo, one of our athletic freelancers.
Well, I've got several, and I love Italian red wines. You can't go wrong with Barolos. Just about any of them are great. I like Brunellos, and Super Tuscans are probably the more of the go-to because they're a little less expensive. I mean, a Barolo, if you get a properly aged Barolo, you might pay $80 for it. If you buy one a little younger and have time to throw it on the rack and let it sit there. But my go-to Super Tuscan, I would say, is Antinori. I think we're going to visit there when we're in Tuscany. I think they've got, and they have a variety of different wines, but they got about 3 or 4 that I really, really like. That's probably in terms of an Italian red. Like if I was just going to get the table wine, I'd buy their Chianti Classico. If I was going to get something that was a little nicer, they've got a couple Super Tuscans that I like. So try Antinori. That would be the one I like. And then there's a Baradenga that's a pretty good, usually reasonably priced Italian red. Those are two. Give those two a shot.
Nice. Michael Brannon, who is the brother of radio personality Pat Knight out in Denver, does Greenway slot in right away when he signs if Cunnin is out long term. He's definitely going to be on the team. It's whether or not, I still think that to throw him right into the lineup is going to be tough. Depends on the health of the team then, who they call up from the minors, if they're playing well. But he's going to eventually play. There's no doubt about it. And would you rather him on the lineup right now than Foligno? Probably.
Well, I think you have to see that. I mean, I think that's an unfair statement to make because we don't know. I mean, but he will be here. He will be on the roster. He will be with the team. And then I think it's just, what does he prove? I mean, jump in, give him a game, but you're in a playoff race right now. Mm-hmm. And to say that he's without a doubt going to be better than Marcus Foligno, I think is a little bit of a stretch. I mean, throw him in there, see what happens. But I think, he's got to prove that he belongs in this lineup. And it's not going to be easy to prove that as you go down the stretch for a team that's fighting for every point in the standings.
Fair enough. I stand mistaken. I apologize. Margot knows what I mean. Margot can appreciate that you were right. I was wrong, right? Margot?
It pains her to have to say that.
Yes. Luke Cahill, friend of the show, asked if Nino's comment about the best is yet ahead of Nino is a sign that he's getting better. But we talked to Nino again today, and he's just not healthy. I mean, he's not going to be healthy. He aggravated the injury in Denver the other night, and
he's probably just going to need an off season.
But I thought he skated better than he did at all yesterday.
And he'll fight through it, and he'll keep playing. There's no question. But he won't look like the old Nino until next year.
A couple more Twitter questions. Liam asks, how hard did the Minnesota Wild brass try to unload Ennis during the trade deadline? Will his departure upset Spurgeon? I mean, I'm sure his departure will upset Spurgeon. But look, I mean, he has not been good, nor has Foligno. I definitely could see one of them at least being bought out this summer. Foligno's buyout, believe it or not, even though he's got 3 years left in his contract, is very reasonable. Ennis a little less tolerable. But they have been. I think it's fair to say when you're alternating the two big free trade pickups this offseason as healthy scratches, that it's fair to say Boudreau hasn't been enamored with their play.
Yeah, no question. He's made that clear all season long, and I think it speaks volumes when a coach speaks with playing time. Mm-hmm. And neither one of those guys they've each been given opportunity. There have been some stretches during the season where Boudreau went to Ennis and threw him in the top 6 and gave him 4, 5, 6 games in a row in that role to try to solidify it. And he was unable to produce with any regularity. Foligno's had his moments. I can't remember exactly when the stretch happened, but there was one period where he played 2 or 3 games in a row where he had a couple scoring chances. He was involved physically, 4, 5, 6 hits, like 3 or 4 games in a row. And I can remember talking to Boudreau about it after a game, and he said Bob Woods told him that's what they saw from him most of last season. Yeah. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't been consistent. And maybe it was easier last year in Buffalo because he was getting more regular playing time with less pressure, where here it was every time you move up in the lineup, you feel like you got to do something tonight. I don't know. It's strange because, and I remember those games, I just don't remember exactly where it was. It
kind of reminds me of when Eric Nystrom got his brains beat in and literally his face caved in from Wayne Simmons when we were in LA once, and he wasn't the same player. And I do wonder, game 3, he breaks his cheekbone, he has surgery where he has metal put into it, and I think it changes the way a physical guy plays. And, I don't know if it's conscious or not conscious, but he has not been the same player. He hasn't been the guy that we expected him to be physically or standing up for teammates or things like that. He said his moments. I thought, what was the goal last week on the homestand where he made the stretch pass out to Winnick for a big goal? I think it was the Eriksson Ek goal.
That's right. Winnick made the strong play coming in the zone.
Evolving Wild. 2 more questions. Evolving Wild asks, why doesn't Nino kill penalties? Could be because of the health right now.
He's not a penalty kill guy, though. I mean, his main attribute is not his foot speed. He's more of a power play guy, nose to the net, quick. He's got good hands around the net. I don't think even when healthy, he's going to be a major part of a penalty kill.
Yeah. And this year he's been a turnover machine, which could be one thing that they're trying to not that Bruce doesn't feel comfortable putting on there, but the fact that right now I don't think they want him blocking a shot on that leg and things like that. They have their PK is usually pretty good, especially at home, and I think they have a good rotation right now. And to put him out there probably doesn't make sense to the coach. Last question came from Gary Powell. I lost a tweet, but they basically asked it, and it's probably a good question to end the show. I mean, this is your 6th year covering the Wild as a broadcaster, but we've talked about it a gazillion times. At the very beginning, it wasn't the most popular decision and he wanted to know, like, how did you handle that at first when you were, maybe some people were pointing out that he's the Gophers announcer and blah, 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 blah.
Well, I think
it's funny that he brought this up because you and I were talking
we just talked about it on the last road trip. Yeah, obviously it was tough. You'd always prefer that people like you. It was probably harder on Margot than it was on me because she took more personally the comments people made, where I was able to just kind of ignore them, I guess, for lack of a better term. But at the time, I had dealt with it a couple of years earlier when I was given the chance to do Gopher hockey, and people had been listening to the same guys do Gopher hockey for years, and all of a sudden it was a new voice, and their comfort level was disrupted, and they didn't really like that. And then when you're given the Wild job, I think a part of it was just that. It was the state of hockey covers areas that are passionate UMD Bulldog fans, passionate St. Cloud State, Minnesota State, Bemidji State, even North Dakota fans. And they looked at me as the Gopher guy, which they didn't like. And, I was calling Gopher games. So it was, you were certainly talking more about the Gophers than that. But I always just told people at the time that, look, at least give it a listen. And all I can promise you is I'm going to work as hard as I can to be prepared. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to try to make the games interesting and exciting and compelling. And if after a couple of years you still don't like it, well, then I guess that's your decision. But just don't rush to a judgment based on something that an opinion of what you think it might be like. And I talked to the Wild people at the time as well, and I said, look, if after a year the fans all hate me, you guys should replace me. But I'm confident that they won't. If they at least give it a chance and listen, I'm confident that my ability will come through. And then as the guy just asked us before, who's your favorite? Well, everybody. It's a subjective thing, how you like games called. Yep. And personally, I the way I do the games is a conscious choice. And I believe that my job is to supply additional information that makes it more interesting, and then try to let the game be the game. And when the game's exciting, I think then you're excited. Yeah. When it's 7-1 and like it was in Denver the other night, I'm not going to try and come up with all these catchy, colorful cliches and phrases to try to convince you that it's something other than what it is, which is a 7-1 loss for the team you're probably watching to see. That's just the way it is. So there's no question it was noticed. And as I say, maybe Margot can speak better to it than I can, but I know it bothered her.
Well, it's awful.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I know it was hard on her because
and I still think it's probably because of that. Because of that, to this day, I still watch every game terrified. Like, what's he going to do to mess up? So that's really what I do to listen to. What are people going to hate? Yep.
Yeah, those early games, I can remember after a game, I always would call, when we're on the road, I would always call Margot before I got on the bus just to say hello, and hey, now I'm getting on a bus and then a plane, and nice. And every time it would be okay, what did you mean when you said this? What, that sounded stupid. What were you? Oh boy.
She's also probably like praying that you don't say something that's going to get you fired.
Exactly.
No doubt. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's still to this day when I still...
NBC games are super relaxing for me.
My favorite Anthony thing was when you were first put on Twitter and you were like we were all joking, like, what would be the gray area that would get them to not fire me, but say I don't have to tweet anymore?
Yep. Yeah. I was looking for that early.
Yeah. Because, and I brought up the Tony DaCosta one, Styles Wild, where he we land in Calgary and he called Edmonton a shithole.
Yeah, right.
And then the next day he got just lambasted. Chuck pulled him aside and he was no longer allowed to tweet, but he kept his job.
That was the beauty of it, the gray area. And I do have to say that now that I've been a part of it for probably 6 or 7 years. I think it was maybe just before starting with the Wild where we had our famous ride home from Chicago where you signed me up on my phone on the way home. And I enjoy the interaction with the fans on there. I don't follow a lot of people and I don't read a lot of other people's tweets, but if they ask me questions, it is a great way to interact with the fans.
Yep.
And I certainly don't mind sharing my thoughts or some statistics that I find interesting or notes or quotes or whatever about a game. And that's how I use it. And it seems to make some sense. And I do enjoy some of the interaction with viewers and fans where, and for the most part, I mean, if they're civil, I'll try to respond to them. I check it during intermission. And, even if they're telling you they disagree with you, I usually will respond to them. And it's because I find it interesting. That's what that's what the viewers are thinking.
Yeah. Well, good question by the last Twitter follower. Well, Margo, let me first again finally thank the Russo-Souhan Show sponsors, TwillMN.com, Twill in the Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, State Farm agent Tony Hoagland, and Todd Moritz of Sandvold Financial Group. And Margo, any final thoughts?
You hate that question.
I know that. That's why I'm throwing you. You know what I love is that Margo listens to every podcast.
Mm-hmm. You say some nice things sometimes about me. I like that.
Yes, you're a photographer at The Athletic.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I'd be curious what your final thoughts are.
Yeah, what are your final thoughts?
It doesn't have to be hockey
related. We didn't tell enough stories about your children this podcast. We'll have to do that next time.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah.
Phil learned how to shake. That was a great moment in our house.
Yep. Phil is
he's one. He now knows one trick.
Yep. He's a dog.
It's been a great year.
He's not a child.
Yeah.
So
we're hoping Vinny can shake soon.
And no final thoughts. How's Anthony been lately? Has he been annoying?
Well, yes. I mean, there's a lot of topics that I could go to. What's the latest? Your shoes without any variety. You keep buying more shoes.
I did get 2 new pair of shoes yesterday
to match the other 6 that all look alike, just different shades of brown to black.
They can't see your shoes on the air, right?
I like shoes.
We could talk about.
I like shoes.
I do.
I like lamp.
I like shoes. I like shoes. I like ties. I don't have a tremendous variety in shirts. I buy the same shirts.
Last season, his tie shop is in South Florida.
Yeah, Ermenegildo Zegna.
And
my favorite ties.
Essentially, on the way to the rink, I pick him up at the team hotel. I'm driving because he wants to go get ties first. Well, it took forever. Carly's texting me. He's like, Boudreaux's ready to go. Like, get over here. I'm like, I can't find him anywhere. I was getting a little miffed.
And we were on time.
I know we were. That's my problem with Anthony. Is that he's got no pulse.
Mm-hmm. I'm well aware.
Yeah,
we got there before we were supposed to be there.
There's no stress.
See, and I hate the condescending.
It's not condescending.
Yep, no, it is.
We were supposed to be there.
If you remember right, I hate that.
Yeah. We were supposed to be there at 4:45. We walked in at 4:40. I mean, it was
just like you said.
That's what time we were supposed to get there. I mean.
I'm going to have to double check that you actually said in December at Christmas that they were going to finish third and play Winnipeg.
Gorgie's been reminding me of it for weeks. Oh, going to go to Winnipeg, huh? Yeah, you just keep thinking. And now he finally is starting to admit that. And it's not a done deal yet, but that's.
But it would be nice if they finished 7th.
I really wouldn't mind a playoff series against the Jets. I think it would be such great hockey.
Yeah. First, it might put the Athletic out of business. You know how much a flight is to Winnipeg? Let alone maybe 3?
Yeah, that'd be great for you.
Yeah. So, and we got to make sure that Margo's
just drive.
No way. First of all, you got to write. I wouldn't drive. I don't like to drive to Duluth during training camp.
Yeah. Well, see, we'll find out if you're a team player or not.
Yeah. All right, the guy that has to go on the charter. Well, Brandon, thanks for coming over here and in this snownami to do the show. Thanks, Anthony, and mostly Margo for coming. I am disappointed you didn't bring Phil and Stanley though. That would be a hoot. Phil.
They'd be too distracting for you.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. Yeah.
It would be awful
That's
for
no
everyone.
doubt. Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. and I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
It's your last chance to get gifts before the holiday, and right now at Old Navy, everything's up to 75% off with gifts from just $1, $2, $3, and $4. Buy online, pick up in store for free in 2 hours with extended store hours too. Get up to 75% off everything at Old Navy and OldNavy.com now. Valid 12/18 to 12/24, excludes gift cards, today only, 2-day only deals, register lane items, jewelry, and Zip Zap stuff gifting bins. Orders must be placed before 4 p.m. for same-day pickup, subject to availability and delays. Additional terms apply. It's your last chance to get gifts before the holiday, and right now at Old Navy, everything's up to 75% off with gifts from just $1, $2, $3, and $4. Buy online, pick up in store for free in 2 hours with extended store hours too. Get up to 75% off everything at Old Navy and OldNavy.com now. Valid 12/18 to 12/24, excludes gift cards, today only, 2-day only deals, register lane items, jewelry, and Zip Zap stuff gifting bins. Orders must be placed before 4 p.m. for same-day pickup, subject to availability and delays. Additional terms apply.